This is the Aranite fact sheet on home working. Firstly, let's look at the legal requirements. Under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, employers have a duty to protect the health, safety and welfare of their employees, including those who work at home. Under the Management of Health and Safety at Work regulations, employers are required to carry out a risk assessment of the home working environment. So what are some of the common hazards? The hazards and risk of home working will vary due to the nature and volume of work, and it is therefore important that specific organizational circumstances are taken into account. If possible, the need for hazardous manual handling should be avoided. However, if home workers must handle goods as part of their work, employers are responsible for assessing and reducing the risks. Similarly, work equipment that is provided must be suitable for the task, provided with the information and training and checked regularly for safety. If home workers use electrical equipment provided by the employer as part of their work, the employer is responsible for its maintenance. If the risk assessment shows that a home worker's health is at risk from exposure to any hazardous substance, the employer must take appropriate action or eliminate or minimize the health risk. Employers also have a duty to make sure that computer equipment, including display screen equipment used by the home workers, is safe and does not affect the user's health. New and expectant mothers also have to be assessed. Risks include those to the unborn child or to the child of a woman who is still breastfeeding, not just risks to the mother herself. Employers should also consider any first aid requirements. The final consideration is the home working risk assessment itself, and we start that by looking at the definitions. The Health and Safety Executive defines a risk assessment as a process involving the identification of hazards arising out of work activities and evaluating the extent of the risks involved, taking into account the existing precautions and their effectiveness. A hazard is something with the potential to cause harm, which includes substances, equipment, methods of work, the work environment, and other aspects of work organization. On the other hand, a risk is the likelihood of a potential harm from a hazard being realized. So we now have a 5-step process. We have already identified and considered the hazards. The next step is to decide who might be harmed and in what way. Employers must look at who may be affected by the work done at home and how they may be affected. Thirdly, we need to evaluate the risk and decide on appropriate controls. We then need to record and implement the findings from the risk assessment and undertake any reviews and update the risk assessment as required. It is important for employers to check the risk assessment from time to time, especially if there is a change in working procedures. The assessment needs to take into account any new hazards that may cause harm to the health or safety of home workers. Further information can be found on the Aranite website at aranite.co.uk.